On Friday the 1st of October, I flew to Amsterdam, and then on Monday the 4th of October, started my first day of work here at 2O. 2O first started 11 years ago selling designer wooden products, like these bike crates and these wooden caps. But then the company made a switch from products to interior design and production. With a growing workshop and team, the demand for custom furniture and interiors grew higher and higher, and with the addition of a 5-axis CNC, it made anything possible. In recent years, collaborating with design studios and architect firms around the Netherlands has helped us grow a reputation into building high-quality custom furniture. This placement for me has not only been for work experience, but also an exciting challenge and adventure of living abroad for the year. It took some time to get settled, but after a couple months, I was loving my new routine in a new country, trying to soak up as much as possible. Starting with the basics, I got taught how the company's design process works, who does what, and how everyone works together. Then was getting to grips with the new software and going in depth into what materials are used in the workshop and why. Chipboard being the weakest and cheapest out the bunch. Because there's more air inside and gaps between all the pieces, it's a lot easier for it to chip and snap. Also, it looks pretty ugly. MDF is similar, just the smaller fibres pressed together makes it a little bit more compact and stronger. Plywood though is made gluing thin sheets of veneer together. Alternating the direction 90 degrees each time between each layer makes it the strongest and most expensive out of the three. But those are just the most common examples. It doesn't stop us from using a lot of solid wood like oak, bamboo, walnut. Yeah, the choice is endless. Anyway, my main job to begin with was CADing up the designs for custom cabinets and making the engineering drawing sheets for them. I discovered a lot about the structure of a single corpus and the standard practices to take into consideration when making them. Like when using dowels, although it's more stable to align the pieces like this so that the weight is evenly distributed along the bottom panel, it's actually a lot easier to assemble and align when the pieces are like this, because then the weight can be distributed on the adjustable feet that go underneath anyway. It's always important to leave at least 100mm clearance between the floor and ceiling and 40mm clearance wall to wall, so that these adjustable feet have enough margin either side to fit the cabinet perfectly. Other jobs that I was working on included running our Instagram page. This meant keeping up to date with all the current trends and events and maintaining a consistent style throughout our page. I got to practice my photography within the office and workshop, as well as going to visit finished projects that we'd just installed. I'd say writing isn't my strong suit, but my copywriting has definitely improved because to write a lot of captions needs a lot of creativity too. In the beginning of the new year, I was given my biggest project yet, Amvest. Amvest was a 100k project consisting of at least 15 custom furniture pieces for a new office interior. It was a lot to take on board at first, but dived straight into each element to see what was needed. Starting by looking through all the existing drawings, compiling a list of questions for the architects. Once these had been answered, I could get to 3D modelling the cabinets and adjusting the final details. Going on location to take dimensions helped visualise the space and understand what physical constraints we were working with and had to design around. For example, we had a lot of equipment behind some of the cabinets, and so certain panels had to be removable in order to access what was behind it. When designing the kitchen areas with a lot of specialised equipment, it was very important to get the exact measurements for each piece to ensure that they would fit inside and have enough clearance around them. For example, for a dishwasher, it's actually better to not build a cabinet around it because it would rattle too much. All you need is a top panel and then to connect it to the corpuses either side of this. It saves a lot of material and time when installing. Also, when making a kitchen island, the doors shouldn't go all the way down to the bottom. You actually need enough space for your feet to stand underneath it so you can reach the countertop comfortably. It's little points like these that I've loved discovering, things that you wouldn't usually think about but only come up when you start designing them. This project is still in the production stage, so chances are it will be installed when I'm gone, but I've loved working on it and learning from it. Although 70% of my time here was spent in this chair and at this computer, the other 30, possibly my favourite, was spent in the workshop making things. Because at the end of January, we manufactured and installed custom furniture pieces for a pub in the centre of Amsterdam called Beertown. With the designs made by a local studio, we could then work out how each piece would be built. Thinking about what the objective is and what purpose it is serving determines what goes inside. It may sound simple, but to sit on a bench comfortably, you need to be well supported underneath. So the structure here was made using 18mm plywood with like 5 central pieces with all the same cutouts along the sides so that the longer supports could fit into them, keeping everything in line and square. Countersunk screws were used so that they were set just below the surface and to not stick out for the frame to go neatly over it. When you're finished using a drill, never leave it upright because the base isn't actually stable enough to keep it upright if it wobbles. It's actually a lot better and safer to leave it left on its side, lying down. When gluing multiple pieces onto one sheet, cover one side completely in glue, and then you want to slide the other one on top in circular motions so that a suction is formed between the layers and a really strong bond is formed. Earlier on in the year, I got taught how to use the laser cutter. To create the pub's entrance sign, first had to make a lot of test pieces to see what settings work best for the material we're going to use. In general, the slower the speed is, the better the laser cuts, because the power is more concentrated at that point. But this can cause a little bit of burning if it goes too slowly, so it all depends on what material you're cutting or engraving. Also, if you're engraving something at high speed, the laser needs enough space either side to move to get the required acceleration, which means you can't position your piece too close to the edge in the machine. The stripes for this logo were only 4mm wide, so it was quite a delicate procedure to cut all of them out. But we managed with just a few minor breaks. Then within the frame we poured a layer of epoxy resin over the whole surface, making the piece watertight. Seeing every little part of this project come together to form a fully furnished interior was very cool. Although it was tiring working on the same drawing sheets every day, the fact that something I helped build is now in Amsterdam Centre forever is even cooler. When I had some spare time in the day, I was lucky enough to be able to come into the workshop to make a couple mini projects over the year. I made myself some balcony shelves and tables so I could eat outside, but I learnt to measure the plates you're designing for first before cutting the wood to size. Also, I learned that MDF isn't very waterproof. On multiple occasions, I've actually walked into the meeting room without realising there's been a meeting going on inside. So I took things into my own hands and made this little sign. Very grateful that I had the chance to come into the office and work in person every day of placement. Being surrounded by such a talented team of people has meant I could ask as many questions as possible, no matter how stupid. And I've kept track of most of them in here, so here are a couple of my favourites. Ask engineers first to check it can be made in a certain way before, so that you don't waste time making unnecessary adjustments. If a 3D model is correct, then it can be sent to the CNC first. What are the objectives of what you're doing, and then what are the constraints to work around for the design? If in doubt, put another hinge on it. Probably written this before in here, but always check the height of the ceiling first to see if a cabinet can be lifted upright from the corner of the feet. Learned lessons from my first cabinet from design to installation. Check that the client has actually checked the drawings. Ask what function the cabinet is and how will it be used. Ask what goes inside the doors. So, for example, a washing and dryer, if they're inside, they should open the doors together, not the other way around. Regarding task priorities, something that can be done in less than 5 minutes, always do it first. And then something you don't want to do it second. This is titled Mini Win Today. Said an idea, what if, and it actually worked. Now I've followed through with it and it's part of the design. I can't remember what that was referring to though. Did designing today, it felt great. The ideas streaming in like you're bursting for a pee and you just let it all out and you don't stop till you feel relieved. Focused on storytelling, explaining the ideas. Not sure if they're luxury, but they're something. I started this year not knowing what to expect, not knowing that I'd become a full-time chef as well as a designer. It all started one fateful Wednesday when I agreed to cook lunch for everybody, and then, well, it stuck to being a regular thing. But since then, I'd say my time management in the kitchen has definitely improved, as well as my food creativity. Although this placement has been in a different field of work to my course, I've still picked up and learned a lot of things that can be applied throughout my career. Well, I haven't learned any Dutch, but I have learned to never assume anything. I've learned to always label a design as if a monkey's gonna make it. I've learned to think out loud and ask for guidance when you're feeling a bit lost. I've learned to be proactive and chase someone up until you get the answer you're looking for. I've learned to close any open points in a project as soon as they arise, otherwise it stays open for way too long and everyone gets confused. I've learned to cater to the audience you're speaking to, and if you're confident enough in how you say it, anyone will believe you. I've learned and sometimes forgot to make a new revision of every drawing sheet you do. I've learned that design can't really be taught, it should be practiced. And finally, I've learned that a good balance between work and life is one of the most important things. So thanks to O for teaching me that, and it's been a pleasure, and I can't wait to see how the company grows in the future.